Today, I'll show you how n8n works with Google Sheets. We'll go through all the details. I'll show you everything as it is. I want the AI agent to check every day on its own. If there is a birthday, it should automatically write a message, compose it, and congratulate the person whose birthday it is. So, let me show you how it works. We launch our automation. The trigger is activated. It accesses Google Sheets. And here, it checked and found that one of the participants has a birthday. Her name is Ashley. So, here she is, Ashley White. Well, today is the 29th of May, and he checked that today is her birthday. And what did it do? He composed a greeting for her with emojis, smileys, and everything else. Accordingly, we can do the same thing, program any function we want. But I think this is how automation works. It's a pretty simple example, with just 2 columns. But I'll show you how it all works in general, so you can set up your own functions, whatever you need. Let's get started. So, as usual, we clear everything and import the file to make it simple and easy to start working with automation. So, here is our agent. The first thing we need to do, you'll see red triangles here and here. So, we need to set up the schedule. That is, how often we want our AI agent to check the information in Google Sheets. So, we can set the days, hours, minutes, seconds, and weeks accordingly. For my task, it's convenient for it to check once a day. What does that mean? It means that when the day starts, at some point during that day, let's not wake people up at night. For example, let's make it lunchtime. Let's have it check every day at lunchtime to see whose birthday it is today. It seems like lunchtime is a good time for congratulations. So, 2 p.m. Every day at that time, it will run, because this is a timer trigger. It runs when we tell it to. As you saw, it can be set to run every second, for example, if your information is being updated. For instance, if you want to check whether any of your colleagues have added something to a Google Sheet. In that case, you set the trigger to run every 10 minutes, and it checks whether a new row has appeared in the Google Sheets. You can check this yourself, or the AI agent can check it automatically and provide you with the information, for example, in Telegram. It will say, a new row was added, this or that event happened here. In our example today, no one except me is adding new rows to this table. I imported it once, and the only task now is to check it. So, moving on. The next node is the Google Sheet itself. Here, we have the following things specified. First, you need to select the Google account. How to add your Google account, how to connect your Google Sheets to n8n, I show in this video. Follow the link. So, after we add our Google account, we'll have a working connection here. Alright, so now we have the connection set up. In my case, the Google Sheet is linked to mine. Next, our task is to work with the document, and here the function is to get the rows. So, we take these rows and get the information. From where? Here, we select our spreadsheet and then choose the sheet. If there are several sheets, you can choose any one you want. Accordingly, all the spreadsheets you have, those on your Google Drive, those in your Google Sheets, will show up here. All the spreadsheets themselves will be listed here. So, we've selected the spreadsheet. And we've selected the sheet. What do we do next? Next, we need to filter by a certain column. Here we have only 2 columns, because the AI agent needs to check information based on a certain criterion. In our case, that criterion is the date. We selected the date column, and for this we write a function. We need a function that will let it understand that today's date is in a specific format. Unfortunately, it's not enough to just say that today's date is such and such. This is important. When connecting n8n with Google Sheets, it's crucial to specify everything in detail, because artificial intelligence, when interacting with n8n and Google Sheets, they communicate via API using specific keys and in a certain way. That's why it's important for them to understand each other. It's important that we define this within specific functions. The function is written in this format because here I have it set up like this, date and number. That's why I specify it here in the same way, first the day, then the month. As you can see, it's day first, then month. There you go. So, what do we do next? We provide this information to the artificial intelligence so that it can check our birthday people by this date in this column. So, I hope we've got that part figured out. What? What comes after that? Next, we have some conditions, right? One of those conditions is if. This function, let's open it up. Here, it checks just one parameter. Does a name exist for this state? In other words, in our simple table example, all the data is filled in, but sometimes there might be an empty name here. Right? And in that case, it will still try to, check, congratulate, and so on. That's why we need to check this condition. So, it's checked using this function, this if parameter. Here, we select the number, and here we check if it exists. If it does exist, then we move on, and if it doesn't exist, we tell it to do nothing, and basically, that's where the AI agent's function ends. So, the date is there, but unfortunately, the person isn't. After that, we don't do anything else. So here, as you can see, there are 20 birthdays listed. So, if on a certain date, like tomorrow, there are no birthdays, it simply won't do anything and won't send us anything. That's it. Next, we have the aggregate node. Let's take a look at it like this. What do we need to select here? Here, we need to select all the data and combine it. Well, what is this function actually for? Why do we need it? After all, we already have the data collected from the Google Sheet. The thing is, the data from the Google Sheet goes to the next AI agent. And to provide it to the agent in a format that's convenient for it, we need to aggregate the data. You see, there is even an icon here, as if it collects them all in one. That's it. The thing is, if OpenAI receives data from the Google Sheet in a format that's inconvenient for it, it will take a lot of time and resources to process it. That's why we provide it in a format that's convenient for it, aggregating this information into a single data array. And we pass this data array directly to the AI agent itself. Alright, moving on. We need the AI agent itself. Again, we need to have ChatGPT connected here, in my case from OpenAI. So, how do you connect it? Look, here's this video. I'm leaving you a link here, you need to connect it, and then. It's actually pretty simple, it only takes about 5 minutes. What do we need next? We need to set up its task. This is our main agent. Here, I specify that its job is to congratulate people on their birthdays. Its task is to write messages and send birthday wishes in a friendly way, using emojis and so on. But we also need to give it a function to know what day it is today. And as you can see, here we set this up as a function, and here it just understands it as a date. That's how it works. We should, well, without getting too deep into the details, because n8n is all about simplicity, and agents are really about making things easier, not more complicated. So there are certain functions you need to set up so that it understands. That's why I'm telling you it's much easier to import a ready-made agent than to create your own. Because here, the date function is already set up for you in a very convenient way. That's it. So, we set up the date function here so it knows what today's date is and can compare using today's date. And we write out some general basic instructions so it understands its task. And we can write to it using emojis, or without them, in a friendly tone, or a harsh one, or any other style we want. I also pointed out that if we have several people here, AAA, several people, then he should congratulate both of them at once. That's it. To keep things simple, I told it that it's used for congratulating people in a group. That's it. Because here, we either send this to, say, our own account like, this is my Telegram ID, but we can also send it to any Telegram or WhatsApp group if you want. There's no difference. But the point is, if you're congratulating these people personally, you need to know their IDs. It's unlikely they'll give you their IDs because it's a pretty complicated process. It's not enough to just enter a phone number here. So, to make things easier for our example, I used my own ID, and it sends me a personal message on Telegram, which I just forward wherever I think is necessary, either directly to people or to a group where we're congratulating them. So, let's continue. After the OpenAI AI agent processes our task according to the instructions and composes the message, we need to send it somewhere. So, we go back to Telegram, and it sends this message to Telegram. In Telegram, we need to connect an account. To connect an account in Telegram, I'm leaving a link right here again. So, you need to set up 3 connections, Google Sheets, ChatGPT, and Telegram. After you set up all 3 connections, it will take you about 5 minutes for each one. If you haven't done this before, well, it's pretty straightforward. We send the message, we deliver it, this is our send operation. You need to specify the recipient here, in this field. Here, you need to replace it with your own ID. That's it. And what exactly are we sending? We're sending the message that the AI agent generated in the previous step. This is how it looks in this function. Well, that's basically it. Let's Now, as an example, set up 2 birthdays on the same day and see how it handles that. We'll remove Ashley's birthday and add one for Jennifer. So, for Jennifer and Will, let's see how it handles this. We need to trigger it again. This time, I'll switch it to seconds so we can quickly check everything and not have to wait a whole day. And let's run our workflow and see what happens. So, it says, Happy birthday to Jennifer and William. You see, it combined these 2 people, Jennifer and William, because it has that capability, that function, since we created this workflow that allows us to specify what happens if there are 2 people, check the condition itself, merge everything into a single data array, and pass it to us. Well, basically, that's it. That's how automation with Google Sheets works. Of course, this is just a small part. Like I said, it can do a whole lot more. Let's take a look at what options are available. It can not only retrieve rows, but also create, clear, add, and update them. In other words, there are a lot of things n8n can do with Google Sheets. And besides Google Sheets, there's also Airtable, which is a tool that lets you work with tables. But we all know that Google Sheets is very popular, so that's why we often talk about it. So, that's this short video. Let me know in the comments what tasks you have related to Google Sheets. If there are a lot of people on the same topic, I will create an automation related to the specific task for Google Sheets. That's it. It was a pleasure sharing this with you today. I hope this lesson was helpful for you. All the best, and goodbye.